Can I ask Tracey to sort of
Yeah.
just give an overview, really, in terms of the role you've been playing and the challenges that you are facing and challenges you anticipate? So over to you.
Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. No pressure now, being recorded. I'll try not to say too much. And I'll start off with that. I work for London Borough of Bromley. I'm the head of compliance and strategy. So my day job is dealing with reviews and complaints to do with homelessness decisions, to deal with money advice, debt advice, IT support across housing, and all of the policy and strategy work, so quite a wide remit. So I'm the lead, if you like, for the Homes to Ukraine scheme currently. So that's a bit of background on who I am. I've had about 17 years experience in housing. So yeah, I'm very privileged, I feel, to be part of this and hopefully help to make, even if it's just a small difference. So obviously what we're sharing today isn't confidential, but obviously just be a bit discreet about what we're discussing, just because obviously it's a sensitive area. And I'll just add the caveat that because things are changing daily, what I'm telling you now might change depending on government guidance. So it's just to add that. And I don't know if it's helpful. What I'll do is give you an update on kind of what we've got, the process and what we're offering. So there's kind of 3 strands at the moment. So we've got the Homes to Ukraine scheme, which is what I'm working on, but we've also got the Ukraine family scheme. And we've also got the other, I'd like to say the other, that yet to be decided, where people have kindly offered their homes in our borough, and we're waiting to see what's going to happen. So I think a few of you will probably be aware, a few months ago the government asked people to express an interest. Now some of those households have been able to find each other via Facebook and churches and other organisations, which has been fantastic. But we know we've got a tranche of people, probably, quite hopefully, we've got generous residents in our borough that are offering their homes, which is fantastic. We don't know what those numbers are. The government are working to share it with us. They've said they're going to try and share that. So at least it will give us some idea of volume, and then we'll know what we're dealing with. So they're kind of the 3 different strands. The process in terms of what we do, what will happen is we've got access to a government system called Foundry. Myself and my team go into Foundry every day and we see if anyone new's been added. As soon as we find out they've been added, on the day they're given an email link so that they can book themselves in for a home assessment meeting. So it's when it's convenient with them, because they'll know when their Ukrainian family, for example, are due to arrive. So if they're not due to arrive for a few weeks, they might not want their home assessment straight away, or they might decide, actually, I'd like it sooner, just so it's done and it's out of the way. So as soon as they've booked that in, we go out and do our home assessment visit at a time that's convenient, and the officer will walk through what the process is going to be, speak to them about what their needs are and a little bit about what it's like to be a sponsor. And then from there, we'll collect the information that we need in order to do our DBS checks. So in an ideal world, we do our DBS checks at the same time concurrently. But when we go into the government system at the moment, it might change. We only receive details of the lead sponsor. And of course, if there's anyone over the age of 16 in the household, in the sponsor household, we have to DBS check everybody in that household. We also need to check as well if there's any vulnerable people in that household, in terms of if anyone's got any mental health issues, if there's any child protection issues and things like that. So alongside the DBS check being done, we're also doing various other checks at the council as well to make sure that we're not putting undue pressure on the sponsor family. Once that's done, then we're arranging for a home visit. And as of Monday, we started the home visits, but as of Monday, people will be able to, again, give them a bit more flexibility and independence. They can book in their own home visit appointment. We will go out and see the Ukrainian household and see what their needs are and what support we can offer. And probably quite crucially at the moment is the payment that people need as well. So we're pleased that we're able to offer a prepaid card, which gives them flexibility and independence, rather than a gift voucher, which I think is quite limiting and probably not very nice. This card can be used anywhere, so it can be used in any shop. People can take the money out of a cash point. What we're doing is loading that money onto one card. We can deal with it remotely. And what we are doing at the moment is checking when we go out and do our home visits how many people are in the household, because the government system hasn't been entirely accurate. Obviously, they're dealing with a lot their end, so we want to make sure that we give the family the money that they're entitled to. So we had a case today where we knew there was an extra child in the household, and we've been able to see all the visa documentation, but I know there's been some issues with trying to get all of that data in, so we know that we need to give extra money. So what we're doing is having that form come back to us, double checking that we've got all of the documents we need, and then we're loading the card remotely, so it'll be able to be used within a few hours, but just so that they've got the money that they're entitled to. So that's the process, and then obviously we'll be doing follow-up visits, and we also need to make the monthly payment, that process, so we'll be able to start paying sponsors as well, and as you're probably aware, sponsors are going to be paid £350 a month in arrears. What we're going to do is, for example, say we start on the 1st of May, then we would pay for April, and if anybody has any guests that have come in during March, we're not going to pro-rata it. If we can see that people have arrived during March, then we will actually pay the £350 for March whenever people have arrived. So that's the system as it is at the moment. So that's the process in terms of sort of managing some of that. And what we're working on at the moment, which is I'm really glad to come to this meeting today, is our community offer. And it's probably worth saying that in terms of our safeguarding checks, we are working with the London Fire Brigade. So anyone that hasn't got smoke detectors, the London Fire Brigade are going out into properties and are giving those. So that's good. They don't do carbon monoxide alarms, but we've purchased those. They'll be with me in a couple of days, and we can start circulating those. And to be fair, we have very few people that either haven't got it or aren't going to go and get it themselves, but I'd like to have that offer there in case anyone does need that. And we're also looking at essentials packs for families, just in case people need basic things like toiletries and sanitary products in the meantime, just while we're waiting for the DBS check to come through. In terms of community offer, where we're at, I'm just putting together a multi-agency support hub in Bromley, so where people can come for advice, support. We'll have IT equipment there if people need to go on and they need help with forms, etc. And we're opening that up not just to our Ukrainian households under the Home to Ukraine scheme, but we know that we've got an unmet need, probably, I'm quite certain we have, in terms of our families that have come through on the Ukraine family scheme as well, that are going to need that support and assistance. And I think it's equally important that sponsors are given support, because they're going to find themselves in a situation they've never been in before, and I think that's equally important. So that will be running twice a week at the Civic Centre, and as I said, I'll circulate details, but we will have a representative there from health, from education, from employment, from social care, who I'm trying to think if I've forgotten anybody, and from housing. So we should have everybody covered from each agency to provide support, and there'll be refreshments, etc. for people. What we're also looking at is the wider offer for our households. And I think what I'm going to start with is, I've kind of approached this by doing a pilot each time, and I don't want to offer too much and people not need it. So what I've done, I've had a conversation with libraries, and I think I'm going to start off with offering a coffee morning, and inviting all of our sponsors and all of our households. I've just seen what their needs are, because we've had lots of ideas and lots of offers of support. The libraries, for example, are happy to do rhyme time with children, art sessions. They're happy to pull together, and forgive me, I can't remember the name. I bet Brenda will know, the preschool packs that children can get with their books before they start school. So they're happy to do that. So it'll be really good to hear from families what they need. Something I'm keen to do, I'm going to contact Mind and see if we can get a representative to come speak to sponsors, give them a workshop in kind of, so that they've got some support. And they may well be with a household that receives some bad news, concerned about loved ones and what's going on. And I think it's equally important, the mental health offer for our Ukrainian households, but also looking at what we need for our sponsor households as well. At the moment, we've got about 209 families or 209 sponsor households. So the difficulty of the Foundry system is that when someone submits a visa application, you might have mum and child that submits a visa application, and then mum goes back in and adds her mum and another child. So it creates different groups of people. So we're trying to cleanse the data so we've got a better understanding. So we know who we're going out and visiting, but when we look at that number, sometimes it's not completely accurate. So 210 is about where we are. We're over 75% of the way through our home assessment visits, and the only reason there's 25% remaining is due to the fact that those households are booked in for later in April. So I think within the next week, sorry, someone's trying to call me, within the next week, those visits will be done, because that's at the choice of the sponsor and what's convenient for them. I think I've probably talked quite a lot, haven't I? Have I missed anything, or is there anything else you'd like me to cover? I know that was quite a lot of information to throw at you. Our DBS checks, by the way, are now coming back very quickly. So we do have a few Ukrainian families that are with us already, but of those Ukrainian families where the DBS checks are back, I think there's eight families that have had the DBS checks back of Ukrainian families that have already arrived, and we've done those welcome visits. So the team are working as quickly as they can to see everybody. So yeah, I'm really proud of the team, and really proud of Bromley residents actually for what they're offering. So that's brilliant. That's it from me.
Just in terms of when I spoke to Andrew, we were talking about the number of Ukrainian families that are already pre-existing Ukrainian families that had been identified through census information to perhaps gauge the sort of likely numbers that may be coming in and are potentially affected, because these are people obviously coming from Ukraine, but obviously it's got implications for people who are of Ukrainian heritage. And is there any sort of broader support offer for them and that part of the community?
And I think
absolutely. Oh, sorry, go on, Andrew.
Well, I think we're hoping and envisaging that that's where that community support hub that Tracey's been outlining comes in. For context, there's about 560 sort of Ukrainians on the registered on that last census, but that actually understates the numbers, because we're well aware of members of the community who may have a British passport and may have registered on that census as British, for instance, but yet have relatives in Ukraine, was born in Ukraine, all those sorts of things, and therefore that number's a low number if you're sort of looking at numbers. And so that's part of the reason we were excited to come here today, because yes, there will be sort of public sector agencies at that support hub, you know, to support with jobs and health and all of those things. But equally, we know that resident groups and voluntary groups want to get involved, and that's fantastic as well. And partly what we want to try and do today is get an understanding of potentially what different groups or people could offer, so that we can bring that together in a coordinated sort of way. I think we recognize that we're at the early part of this realistically. Yes, there are people here already, and yes, there is sort of upset here in that sense because of the experiences that we've all seen to a point, but some of us are more closely involved, understandably, because of our ties with Ukraine. And therefore, that is here, but we're very aware that greater numbers are on their way, and therefore it's the time now to get that second level, if you like, of support ready, which is why we're here today. And thank you to Chris for helping with that.
You're welcome. Thank you. James had his hand up, so I'll invite James to ask his questions, or indeed say a few words. Do you mind? We haven't gone around and introduced ourselves, partly because of time. So if people do have questions, it will be helpful if you could introduce yourself, but perhaps if you're from an organisation, highlight the organisation and the role you may be playing. So James.
Thanks, Chris. Actually, my hand wasn't up. I was trying to clap.
Oh, right. Okay.
Reaction, but I will just take the moment to introduce myself. So I'm James Hobbis. I live in Chislehurst. I put together a little organisation, a group of people who wanted to help in any way possible, really. And so I'm coordinating across 10 families in Chislehurst area who have offered themselves as hosts. There are, I think, 20 to 21 refugees coming through them. And initially it's been around just tracking the process of those visas, and we all know the issues around that. And we're getting some help from Sir Bob pushing the case through with some success. I think we've got 2 families have now arrived. And then what we see the group as doing in future is really just coordinating and helping one another in a on the ground social way. So nothing more than that. And the reason I was clapping was sort of the relief of seeing what's available and is being done.
Yes.
And I do want to clap because it does seem to be going the right way now.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. That's really helpful. And if I could invite John Pedley to come in. You have a question.
Thank you. John Pedley, I belong to the Rotary Club of Orpington. Sorry, Tracey, I just missed the beginning of your talk. Did you say you were from Bromley Council?
I am, yes, yes.
You work for the council, do you?
I do. I work in the housing team. I'm one of the managers.
Okay, thank you. Your status is well established. Okay, thank you, that's all.
Just in terms of the mental health offer, I'm sure Bromley Minds are more than accessible. But if you have trouble accessing our open doors, please let me know, because I'm on the boards of Bromley Well, and along with Ben Taylor, the chief officer there.
Thank you.
Keep in touch. I'm sure Bromley Mind will be more than happy to support the efforts and the endeavours that you're doing. And clearly mental health is going to be a challenge. Clearly families risk a long periods of separation and the distress. I've got 2 other hands up. I've got Brenda, and then is it Bitenge from Groundworks? I'll invite Brenda to speak first, and then I'll ask Bitenge to come in. Brenda.
Brenda, you're on mute, unfortunately.
Sorry, I don't have good eyesight, so I can't see whether it's on or off. I'm the national lead for resilience for Rotary, but I'm working closely with Pat Rosser, who is the Rotary lead in Bromley. I'm working therefore with a number of councils, and I've already spoken to Tracey, and I'm speaking later on today. But there are a couple of things that have come up today that I'd like to ask about. One is, do you need any help with the essential packs, either with getting them together, actually sourcing the materials, etc., and could Rotary help with that? Whether you're going to be needing any help with the libraries. We've been working with refugees, the Afghan refugees, so we've got lots of examples of how things that have worked with them that may well work with Ukrainians. I've also been in touch with today, actually, finally, I finalised a programme with Bookmark, where we can source boxes of books and reading support, and we will need volunteers, and I'm sure some of the Rotarians will help with this, and it is specifically for the Ukrainians. So I'll link in, if someone could give me the library link as well, because they're also working with libraries as well as schools. Would it be possible for us to be able to find out, approximate, which schools are, or at least the wards? I know things are difficult, and I'll speak to Tracey about that afterwards, but obviously we do have Rotary clubs across the borough, and they all want to help. We also if Community Links haven't already done it, I've checked that the council haven't. Rotary is able to access as a charity the Vodafone SIM cards with 6 months available. So, you know, we're happy to do that on your behalf. I've been at the Green Hub today, and certainly they will be putting on things, and I will be coordinating some of the textile work which will be available to doing a big quilt so that each of the families can add to it, and that can be done at homes and out in any of the other areas. In most of the other areas that I'm working with, they've had things like the coffee mornings, etc., but they've also the multi-agency support, and support, as you've said there, for the host, which is really important, but they've also are looking very much at sort of ongoing support and help that I think the community can, the befriending side of things, you know, engaging them in activities that they're already doing. And I'm sure that Community Links would be able to, you know, put out through your newsletter, you know, asking people to say what's happening, what's on, and if people are not unable to get work, they may like to be doing some volunteering, helping with summer fairs, bringing the children along, those sorts of things. We also do have a list of people who can translate in the area. That's helpful, which might be helpful with the lessons. And so there are lots of things that that Rotary can do, but also working in partnership with all the other organisations which are here. I think the partnership bit is really, really important with this, because we've got to meet the needs. However, a lot of the work I went to a meeting this week with Medway, and the key work is being coordinated and almost owned along with the council by the Ukrainian community themselves, and Eastern European. And I think perhaps that's something that, you know, if we could look at how we could engage them so that we really are listening. So just a few comments there, and I'll pick up with Tracey later today. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you. I think that was an incredible menu of services, offers and support. So thank you. Thank you, Brenda. There's a couple of things that I take from that. I mean, first of all, I think the point about engaging with the communities themselves and asking what their wants and wishes in. And the second thing is about actually using a pathway for families and a pathway for support, and actually just thinking about what the appropriate route is. And I think the council hub seems to be a really useful way of doing that. But I'll ask Tracey, any thoughts in terms of what Brenda's very kind offer? And as she says, I mean, we do host volunteer centres, so we're more than happy, should the need arise, to coordinate and grow the volunteer offer. They've been doing a similar offer in Bexley. They haven't been marketing that post because they want to manage expectations, and there's a pool of pre-existing volunteers that potentially could support, that have come through the vaccination programs and are supporting the vaccination clinics at the civic centre. So there's a pre-existing pool, so I don't think we necessarily need to advertise for volunteer roles at the moment, but just be mindful that there is a resource that you can draw on should that be necessary. Julian needs to go, but thank you, Julian, for popping in.
I just wanted to add on there as well, Chris, that one of the key things is also helping people into work, and I know we do have experience in Rotary. There's in all these organisations. I mean, I was speaking to someone this morning, and they said that they have someone who is here already, and they are a Ukrainian TV broadcaster and journalist, but their English is not very good. And I'm suddenly there thinking, oh, I wonder whether Rotary Radio might be able to put on a programme, you know, once a day in Ukrainian, and we'd have somebody who could do it. Just, you know, so
That's brilliant.
Seeing how things fit together, because so many people that yesterday it was really being reported back to me, and I'm sure it won't be any in Medway, and it won't be any different in Bexley, Bromley, is that, you know, so many of them really do want to try to work, and many of them do have good enough English. There are routes in, so I think that's, you know, something we can all help with.
Yeah, okay, that's really, really helpful. Tracey, do you want to come in?
Yes, Brenda, thank you so much. So we were looking at SIM cards, but I think I'll bite Brenda's hand off on that one. I can absolutely share the wards where we've got people placed, if that's helpful. That's not an issue at all. And I agree with you. I think speaking to our existing Ukrainian communities, and even some of the people that have recently joined us, they're keen to be able to reach out and connect with others. And I think that's why I want to do that coffee morning, to see what people want, because even libraries were saying that, you know, if the mums of the children want to work with them to set up like trails for children and activities, they're happy to do that. And I think that's why they're thinking about art workshops, so that the language issue isn't such a barrier to start with while people are learning. We've also been working with Bookmark, and we'll be able to provide sort of tablets and laptops to children at primary school age. So we're just looking at how we can assist those going into secondary school as well. So it's coming together. And at the moment, obviously, we don't have lots of families, but like Andrew said, we don't know what the future holds. My guess is the volume will increase quite a lot, and it's how we work with you, because I think there's so many people out there that are willing to help us, which I think is brilliant. So yeah, I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Britange, and then I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And then I'm going to ask Emily to come in after the next question, and just give us a sense of what's happening across London. It's not a benchmarking exercise. It's about understanding what the broader picture is, and what the offer across London is also looking like at the moment. Britange.
Yeah, my name is Britange Bitenge, working for Groundwork, a big company really. I'm working for Together South. That's a project really, the name of the project called Together South. Has a senior refugee outreach officer. So we've been working with different communities, even recently with the Afghan. So we have three strands of the program, integration program for refugees. We have the language, really English, could be online, on Zoom, one-to-one, or in group settings, or we've developed recently visiting. So we can come and deliver. The teacher could travel, go to Bromley and deliver the session for English. We also have the employment advice. Yeah, we've been doing it for Afghan, going to different hotels where they're based, delivering. And we also have the third strand on, we call it UK Cultural Insights, teaching them, explaining more about the culture in the UK. So yeah, my intention of today is really to make contact really. We are there, we are available, we have the capacity to come and deliver.
Fantastic. And again, thank you very much for the offer. We will share your, I think the contact details have been shared, but we'll make for other people who want to access that service, because it's clearly not just about the Ukrainian community, it's about a range of other communities. So thank you for that. I'm going to now go on to Emily, and perhaps you can sort of explain your understanding about what's happening across London, and the different pressures and the different way people have responded. Emily.
Hi, yes, thanks Christopher for inviting me. It's been really useful hearing from you what's going on. Just as a bit of context, I'll explain briefly what we've been doing and how you can get involved. I see some familiar faces that have been coming to our meetings and are linked in with us already. And then I'll give a brief update of what I've seen around. Just for context, because of bank holiday, we didn't have our meeting last week, so I feel like I'm slightly more out of the loop than I have been, but I'll update you as much as I can. So at London Plus, as Christopher said at the beginning, we've kind of based what we've done previously during COVID and then the Afghan evacuation, and have taken that learning for this. We're the local lead for the VCSEP in London, joint with Community Barnet. So part of what we've been doing is hosting at the moment it's weekly, London Touchpoint meeting, which has been really useful. It's pan-London, any voluntary sector organisation can come and just share what's been going on in their borough, any concerns, and any updates, and that's been really useful to provide links. After I speak, I can put links in the chat, so if anybody does want to join, then any voluntary sector organisation is welcome. To go hand in hand with that, we have a WhatsApp group, and the WhatsApp group is really useful. It has larger charities and organisations, so it has the GLA, the British Red Cross, VCSEP, London Plus, and then also many small Ukrainian organisations and community groups, as well as charities that are helping and supporting. And it's just great to link up. We've seen lots of different people linking up. So if they've got families that need children's clothes, or they've got useful Ukrainian documents which might be helpful, bits like that are being shared in the group. And then linking up again, if anybody's not in the WhatsApp group and would like to be, any voluntary sector organisation is welcome. And we do also have some local authorities in there also. And then the third thing that we have is a document. It's becoming a bit of a beast, but it's split up by borough and then also pan-London and thematic sections based on what is useful. So we're updating it every day almost, and that has any kind of links or community groups or organisations that are helping with Ukraine is going in the document. So again, if there's anything that you know is going on in Bromley that's not in the document, it's useful for you to share. And that document's kind of been using in two ways. So one way is that people that want to help are using the document to find out what's going on in their local area or how they can donate and support. And we're trying to keep up with the advice and what's going on. So at the beginning, obviously the advice was financial donations were more beneficial over donation of goods. So we were trying to highlight that, but as well as donations of goods. And more recently, it's switching as people are arriving, it's switching to people who are using it to find out how they can, what things are available for Ukrainians to access. So the most recent one is clothes banks. So we've got a section on clothes banks and so on. So again, I can share that in the chat. I think that's a basic overview of what we've been doing. We're also been having weekly meetings with the GLA and London councils. And so anything that is said and shared with us, mainly at our London Touchpoint meetings and meetings like this and things that we're picking up on, then we can share and link directly in to them, and that's been really useful, and they've been linking back to us. And we've been working with London councils to create a document for local authorities, and that's got lots of useful key contacts and links and documents, and it has like the local authority key contact, the volunteer centre key contact in there, and lots of other information. So they're the main things we've been working on. Things that we've been hearing, so there's lots of meetings like this happening, as Brenda highlighted earlier, across London, and we're trying to attend as many of them as we can. It's been quite slow. I think the visa approval has been quite slow, and so lots of people and charities and organisations are ready to go and are sharing learning across the board, but not a lot has been happening is what we've been hearing. Local authorities and volunteer centres are starting to link up together and work out how they can work with each other. And as you mentioned, Christopher, there's already in many boroughs a pool of volunteers, which is really useful to keep engaged, who have been working on the vaccine effort. So I've heard that in quite a few boroughs, that's it's been kind of, people have been wondering how to keep them engaged, and they're such a valuable asset. So a lot of them have been asked to work on this as well. There's a difference, obviously, I'm sure many of you know, between people arriving on the family scheme compared to the Homes for Ukraine scheme. First of all, data collection, and also the benefits that are offered to the people on the Ukraine scheme compared to the family scheme, and also people coming over and then their families, the families that they're staying with, not on the Home for Ukraine scheme, the family visa one, not working out, and then presenting homeless to local authorities or local Ukrainian organisations. So we have been hearing that. And we are trying to link up as much as possible with Ukrainian organisations, because lots of them aren't in this field at all. They're just community centres, and then suddenly they're getting people coming asking for quite a lot of support, whether that's trying to understand the government system, or benefits, or not having money or home. But I know lots of charities and organisations are supporting those community centres. I think that's mainly what yeah, they're the main updates I've been hearing. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much on that.
That's super. That's really helpful. Which prompts me to sort of think I must revisit the directory and the database for Bromley and make sure that that's updated, and that the relevant and appropriate contacts are on there, and maybe we can have a conversation with Tracey and Andrew about who is most appropriate to be added to that list. So thank you very much. I think that was a really useful overview. Has anyone, Tony?
Thanks, Christopher. I mean, just more sort of summary comments on a few things. Lovely to hear what Brenda and Rotary are doing. Not surprised. Very good heritage there. Emily, we would definitely love to be connected in what you're doing. I'm Tony Hall. I'm a church leader with Derek Hull, who's also on the call today. We are part of the leadership team of Transform Bromley Borough, which is a network of the vast majority of the churches in Bromley Borough. Also, Tracey and Andrew, well done for what the council's doing. That's so encouraging, and it's not across the board, across the country, but lovely to hear how well Bromley's doing. I guess just would love to, Tracey, probably outside the meeting, connect with you. There are a number of services that the churches already run. That I know many ministers and churches are looking at how to reorientate them. Obviously, we have facilities across the whole borough, and I think we're looking in the borough and outwards. The only other thing I would add to that would be also we're already having connections within the Ukrainian community, and that may also help you in terms of speeding conversations on. So definitely want to add some stuff there. But no, very exciting, and thanks for convening it, Chris. It's exactly what we expect to see in Bromley. I don't know if Derek wants to add anything, then that's our little pitch.
I think you've handled that really well, Tony. Yeah, no, I think it's really exciting just to see what's happening across the borough, seeing different parts of the voluntary sector coming together and working with the council and others to make a difference. And we've got a history of doing that, and looking forward to seeing this continue in relation to the refugees that are coming our way, sadly, in many ways.
Just to add to, for those who don't know the work Tony and Derek are doing and have been doing, they made a fantastic contribution during the pandemic in terms of food organisation, distribution and mobilisation, and actually what that showed is that they can mobilise a huge resource and capacity very quickly, and they turned around that incredibly quickly, and during the pandemic were frequently distributing 3 to 4 tons of food a week across the borough without any real visible acknowledgement, and that was happening, and that was happening on the ground every week in the borough. So thank you both for that. Pat, you had your hand up.
Yes, I'm Pat Ross. Brenda introduced me earlier. I'm Resilience for Bromley for Rotary. Emily, it was just towards the end of your talk, I got a bit confused, and I just wanted to ask you. You were saying that something had happened that hadn't worked out, and I wasn't sure which bit of it hadn't worked out. Was it people coming to sponsors, or was it people coming to family and friends?
Yeah, it was more that it's harder to collect data on the family and friends scheme, and there has been incidences where that they might not be working out on the family and friends scheme. I haven't got the data or anything like that, and I wouldn't. It's just that I've heard that more than once across London.
I can imagine that when people come in a very distressed state,
yes,
it goes back to this mental health thing again, that if it's family and friends, you might let go a bit more, and maybe it's actually better to be with a sponsor family where they are strangers, and in a way it's a sort of weird. Obviously it's great to be with your family, but I can imagine things getting a bit hot, you know, with family sometimes if everybody's overwrought and in the state. So that's a great shame, but it was bound to happen, I guess. And it's probably going to happen when the sponsor scheme gets started. Am I right in thinking that there aren't any sponsor, nothing's got off the ground at all yet with the sponsors, which is more, Tracey would probably tell us that. Because you're not fully checked out yet.
So we're dealing with sponsors under the Homes for Ukraine where people have found each other and they've matched themselves, but we've not had that volume come through where Bromley residents have put themselves forward to be sponsors and are waiting for someone to match with them. And I think, as much as I think that's going to be a lot of work, I think that's desperately needed. And I think what Emily said is correct. We've had a couple of inquiries where people are struggling to keep their family at home, and of course what you would do in a crisis is say to your family, come on, all come over, and of course you're going to have people that are going to be vastly overcrowded. And Pat's made a very good point. Everyone's going to be overall really stressed, really traumatized, and it's just not going to be feasible for those families, best will in the world, to live like that for very long. At that point it's get people into safety, isn't it?
How long do you think, Tracey, that it's going to be before it's cleared and you know, the red tape's cleared and the families are ready to come?
I don't know. Government haven't really given an indication, just saying that that's their phase 2. I know Reset have been fantastic, which are obviously a government approved organisation. They're looking at how they can match people, because we've had a query today where someone has come through from the family scheme. It's not worked out for one reason or another. I think it was through one of our MPs, hasn't worked out for one reason or another. They have found another sponsor household in Bromley to go to. They'd like to swap schemes, and at the moment there's no process for doing that. So that sponsor family isn't going to get the benefits that Emily was talking about in terms of the monthly payment, like the thank you payment, and also the emergency subsistence, so I'm hoping, you know, obviously I don't know what government's intentions are, but I really hope that that's looked at. We wouldn't want our existing Ukrainian families to be disadvantaged.
Thank you both of you. That's really helpful.
Thank you. And I think Emily's posted a link on the chat, and we will share that after the meeting on the chat. And as I said, a number of people also wanted to be here today but weren't able to be here, so the offer is broader. We've got 5 minutes left, Is there any other issues that people think, or just questions that they don't know about that they'd like to ask before we go? And the other thing is whether I'd welcome some feedback in terms of whether people would welcome the opportunity to do this again. I don't think we need, as Emily said, there are weekly events taking place through London Plus. There are a range of networks that are existing and people can feed into. I just wonder whether there's merits in terms of maybe doing this again in another month, maybe just to sort of revisit the conversation and think about how it's panning out and the changing and emerging offer. I've got a number of hands coming up. I think John, then Emma, then Derek, and then Nadine, and then I'm afraid I'm going to need to close this down. So first of all, John.
Just a quick one to Brenda. Is Brenda going to be the main coordinator to the Rotary clubs to let us know what we can do by way of practical help?
It will come out from Pat Rosser. I'm doing the national and linking, but yes, Pat and I are working together, and it'll all come out to you. Yes.
Who's that? Pat who?
Rosser.
Pat Rosser is on the screen.
Oh, Pat, I see. Okay. Okay. And
we're one and the same thing. Where anyone can answer questions, but it will come direct to your club.
This is via district, is it? In effect.
This is for your northwest area.
Northwest area.
Yeah, just for our northwest clubs.
Okay.
But we've got updates for you know, for newsletters which are coming out nationally as well, which should come to your club.
Thank you.
You'll be well informed.
Thank you, Brenda. Look forward to hearing from you and Pat.
Emma.
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick one from me. I just wanted to let everybody know I'm representing Bromley Brighter Beginnings for anyone who doesn't know me. I'm the chair, and we are able to supply essential items for any family with a child, at least one dependent child under the age of 18. We have already helped a couple of Ukrainian families who got here quite early, staying with relatives, and we've provided them with items for the babies, and clothes for children. We've got a network of 8,000 supporters in the borough, and we can very easily and very quickly obtain equipment, things like prams if needed for babies, Moses baskets for a baby to sleep in, clothes for children, bottles, you know, all kinds of baby equipment, and you know, clothes for teenagers, school uniform if children are going to be getting into schools in Bromley. We can help with things like that as well. So referrals can be made via our website. We usually we need a family to be referred to us. People don't normally come to us direct, but there is a bit of an issue, obviously, with families coming here and not already being in the system. You know, they don't necessarily have somebody, they're not registered with a GP, their children aren't in school yet, so they don't have an obvious referrer. So we can be quite flexible about that because of this particular situation. But basically get in touch. You know, we've got 25 volunteers, we've got people around the borough who can help supply things. So I'll put a link to our website in the chat. Just contact me if anyone wants any more information.
Fantastic. And are you happy if we added that to the London Plus?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to take Derek and then I'll go to Nadine.
Yeah, thanks, Christopher. I'll just be short. I'm just thinking I would certainly think it's worthwhile having another session in whatever, a month, 6 weeks time. I think as things develop, there's obviously a lot of people out there that are offering personally and also groups to provide support, host families, etc. And we're waiting to see what that looks like. And I think once we get that guidance from the government, there's going to be a rush, and it will be really helpful to be able to be ready for that and to continue the dialogue so that we're not caught unawares. And obviously, if something was to come sooner than 6 weeks, then quite possibly we could look at doing something sooner.
Fantastic. Okay, and Tracey's mirrored that. So for in a month or 6 weeks. So we'll certainly put something in the diary for everybody. Nadine.
I was just putting a thumbs up saying for the meeting in a month's time, as has been said, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll definitely do that. Okay, fantastic. Well, look, thank you. We said we'd be on an hour. We've extended our time. I'd like to thank everybody for coming and sharing the experiences so far. Can I especially thank Andrew and Tracey for coming along from Bromley, and Andrew for facilitating it, and Emily for coming along on behalf of London Plus. They're doing a sterling job, all of them. Thank you for your time. I'm glad that you found it a useful exercise. We'll certainly, as I said, revisit this in 4 to 6 weeks. Clearly, if the circumstances change, we will be mindful of that. We'll take that into account and bring that forward should that be necessary. But otherwise, I hope to see you all in 4 to 6 weeks.
I've just got one thing. Just one thing, Christopher. Yeah. There's been a question about sharing email addresses, and obviously I'm very happy to do that. You obviously registered with us. If you are happy for us to share emails with each other so you can keep in contact between the meetings, we're very happy to do that for you, along with all the other links from today.
Brilliant. Okay, that's really helpful. And the final thing then to add is a helpful reminder from Christine to say that the Rotary are in fact in the Glades tomorrow. They will be collecting for Ukraine tomorrow. Do you want to say a brief mention about that, the times? And
yes, thank you. Yeah, we're going to be there from 10 till 5 tomorrow. We've got a central position in the top level, the lower level, and we've also got a position in the north entrance, so you'll find us anywhere. We've got big posters ready. We've got all sorts of things going on, and then actually in the evening, Beckenham Rotary has a barn dance going on, also raising money for Ukraine. So we're raising thousands at the moment. So yeah, I think everybody's on board with this.
Well,
so thank you very much.
Any loose change, and if there's any dancers out there, you're more than welcome to join Christine at the barn dance. I'm going to draw it.
Yeah, we've got credit card machines too.
I might be rehearsing tonight. I'm going to leave it at there. So thank everybody for coming. I just think it's been really positive, and I just think it just shows the level of support, commitment, community participation that is out there, and the offer is strong. So we need to build on this. So once again, thank you, Andrew and Tracey, for participating and attending, and again, thank you, Emily, for coming along. Very short notice, so thank you very much.